Alrighty. Good morning. I'm Mary Preenon. I'm the Director of Communications for the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. And I want to thank you all for coming to our Breakfast with Benefits today. And really interesting topic for today. What is in your water? Something that we should all be really aware of. And our guest today is Michael Beckerich from York Analytical Labs over in Nyack. And Michael is going to tell us all about how to protect not only ourselves, but our clients from anything that might be lurking in your water. So Michael?
Sure, thanks Mary. I'm Michael Beckerich. I'm the owner, operator of York Analytical Labs. And for 40 years, 38 years, we have been the environmental laboratory for professionals all over New York City. We work for Con Edison, we work for Metro North, we work for the airports, we work for every major consulting company. Until recently, we've never dealt with homeowners before. In Rockland County, where I live, and in Westchester County and Dutchess County, over the last couple of years, there's been an increasingly regulations around when you sell a home and you have a private well, you need to get that well tested. In some cases, the seller has to pay for it. In other cases, it's the buyer. But those well tests that laboratories have done, I would say were very low tech, cost maybe a couple of $100 at most. More and more since COVID started, I've been asked by people I know, hey, we really want professional laboratory to get involved in well testing, because I keep hearing news about these forever chemicals in the water supply, and that's not part of that. So in January, we launched a brand new service working with homeowners. I bought a drinking water laboratory that focuses on well testing, and we quickly expanded it. So what a better place to start getting the word out and education than with realtors. So I got in touch with Mary, we became a sponsor, and I've started to do lots of talks. I've done 3 talks in the last week, and many of you have probably gotten in the mail those little flyers that says, what's in your water? And it has a little tiny vial. It says, we'll test your water for free. A lot of them come from Culligan or companies that sell water softeners, or go out to the van and they do the test in the van like you would have at a pool company. So that's not what people need to be thinking about now, which is why we have this campaign about what's really in your water. So let's see. Mary, can you see these slides okay? Great. So I'm gonna walk through some slides. I'm gonna tell you a story about this brand new issue that you all need to know about, because what's happening is in Westchester, Rockland, all around the Hudson Valley, in Connecticut, at some point very soon, it's going to be mandated that the well tests for private drinking water include forever chemical test. The forever chemical test is expensive. It's a $500 test in some cases. But what's really more concerning is that in order to address an issue in a home that has these forever chemicals, which are called PFAS, it's going to cost some money. What I'm seeing right now is that plumbing companies all over Rockland and Westchester, there's one in Mamaroneck, that are out there selling homeowners that are afraid what's really in their water. They're selling them filtration systems. In many cases, these filtration systems are not doing much, okay? So what we've been talking to plumbing companies that are putting home water filtration systems in is providing homeowners a test that shows what's in your water before it goes through your filtration and what's thereafter, so people have peace of mind. So I'm going to talk to you about that. My lab, again, I was born in the Bronx. I live in Rockland County. I have family all over, Westchester and Rockland. I went to high school in New Jersey at St. Joe's Regional in Montvale. I'm a local guy. I'm a single dad with 3 girls. And the idea that there's a contamination in the Hudson Valley and in the drinking water bugged me out personally. I mean, it's a problem, which is why I'm so passionate about this new avenue that we're starting working with homeowners. As you all know, you guys know this better than I, homeowners are a pain in the ass, okay? And for us, that we typically deal with environmental professionals, we're looking at this, we've never dealt with that. So this is a new area, but it's already gone, the business has already gone through the roof. I was interviewed by News 12 about a water contamination issue in Purchase outside of Westchester County Airport. And the next day, we had 175 homeowners calling us up to come in and test their water. So this is really just the tip of the iceberg. And I wanted to give you some baseline education and then tell you why it is you need to know about this. Because when you have a property that's being sold and there are real questions about environmental and forever chemicals, time is of the essence. And there's nobody else out there like us right now. So I've got 6 laboratories, 6 locations around Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, 120 staff. We've got, when I started this Forever Chemical PFAS laboratory, which is in Queens, by the way, right outside of JFK Airport, there wasn't even approved methods to do what we do. There was no licensing. So I borrowed $1 million from the bank, which was not an easy thing. And again, I like to go to Vegas. I like to go to AC. So this was the equivalent of taking everything in my pocket and doubling down on two kings. And luckily it worked, because in the 3 years since we opened this laboratory, this has become the largest piece of our business. It has become a public health crisis, and the regulations are starting to catch up. We're the only laboratory licensed to test for these forever chemicals in soil, water, and air in New York City and this area. So many of the other laboratories that are out there doing homeowner tests, they send them to us. So we're trying to give people a direct route. The other thing that I want to make sure that everybody realizes is that we separate church and state. A lot of times the people that are putting filtration systems in your home are the ones that are providing the testing. So of course, when they shake the vial and they go to the van and they come back in and they say, yeah, you have a problem. You need a carbon filtration system or a reverse osmosis system in your house. Okay, we're the lab. We provide an accurate professional test, and then we have a network of people around us that can provide the services. So one of the things I'm hoping to hear today from the people that are on this phone, and you could send email or you can direct message or however we do this on Zoom, is I want to know who are the home inspectors that are go-to for you, because I want to make sure they know about our service. Because when you call them to come in and look at a home or make sure that a deal goes through, I'm going to give them literally the fastest, best laboratory service that they can offer. That's third party, that's real, okay? Especially if you have a buyer that's going into a home. All around Westchester County Airport, I'm going to show you data of homes around Westchester County Airport that have real issues. When you have a buyer that's concerned about what's in the drinking water or what's in the groundwater in the stream that's running across my property, okay, you want to make sure that you have good information, because we're starting to hear from lenders and banks that are now requiring forever chemical PFAS testing on home transactions, even though it's not mandated by the county. So we launched this website to make it easy for homeowners and realtors called YorkLabWaterTest.com. We actually just had a jingle written for an ad about, you need to know what's in your H2O, YorkLabWaterTest.com. All right, so you'll hear that soon. It'll be fun. And we're taking out ads in the real estate, in-depth magazine. Hopefully you've seen our ads. They are the most colorful one in there, but again, educational information is what's out there. I've been doing lots of media interviews. So go to this site if you want to build some education. I'm going to loop back to this at the end of my presentation. But if you the best education that I've seen on PFAS and forever chemicals is John Oliver, and there's he's on HBO. He has a talk show. He did a whole segment on this the other night, talking about how this is really a cover-up from the EPA and the government about how this hasn't been looked at. Okay, now we're lucky that we live in New York State, and New York State has been very aggressive about putting limits on this. But talk about PFAS as a crisis. Okay, there's news all over the place. Newburgh residents have had massive issues. Suffolk County, all over Long Island. Just in the last 2 months, all of Bergen County has had massive forever chemicals discovered in their water. I live in Nyack. Rockland County has several hot spots of this. Okay, right now in the Connecticut legislation, there is a bill on the table that will require anybody that provides drinking water to more than 20 people to be testing annually for forever chemicals. Again, so I'm going to explain what that test entails, but PFAS is the technical term for forever chemicals. There's a movie that was out in the movie theaters with Mark Ruffalo called Dark Waters. And again, it's kind of like they went down the Erin Brockovich road, but this movie talks about what 3M and DuPont did when they started to develop these chemicals. The chemicals were originally created in the DuPont and 3M factories for Teflon, for anything that required a material anti-rain, anti-stick in your fabrics, on your couch, in your rugs. Okay, it's used in every industry imaginable. Okay, when you walk into Bed Bath and Beyond, okay, there's a display. I went to the one that was up here in Palisades Mall not too long ago. There's a display, and the cook pan says, hang on, let's see if I have one. Sorry, I might even have a cook pan. Oh, I do. Look at that. I have a prop. Okay, so cook pan says PFAS free cook pan. Okay, they're now selling this to consumers without educating people what it means. Okay, but PFAS there are thousands of PFAS chemicals. Okay, PFAS is a class of chemicals. The most concentrated form of PFAS contamination comes from film forming foam used by firefighters. The foam that's used to put out fires has an insane level of PFAS in there. So if you look at airports, Westchester County Airport, Newburgh Airport, there's one in Long Island, okay, obviously in Queens, okay. The firefighters do all of their testing at airports. So when they're spraying these things down, the foam gets in the ground and it never ever disappears. Okay, so it seeps into the ground, gets into the groundwater, and starts spreading around. Also, the chemical used for de-icing planes is heavily concentrated with PFAS. Now, there's some news about FAA regulations that they're mandating that products, the foam used for firefighting, stop using PFAS, but it's not. Right now, it's still mandated that any approved firefighting foam is heavily included here. Last week in the news, some of you may have read about Burger King, McDonald's, and Starbucks making an announcement that they're taking these forever chemicals out of their packaging. Okay, they haven't done it yet. They just announced it. So this stuff is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And again, if you want to understand why it's so dangerous, this is a compound that was created to be resistant to water. So it doesn't disintegrate in water. It's resistant to heat and oil. So it never disappears. And what has been found is that these chemicals are significantly hazardous. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of the findings that are out there. There's no doubt. I did a talk on Tuesday in Tarrytown to a business group of investors at Raymond James Investment Company. They asked me to come in and talk about the dangers of this and what levels are being found, because there's a whole industry being built up around the identification and remediation and monitoring of forever chemicals. Every large water company is doing it. Every plumbing company is doing it. It's a significant business issue, but it has come up on America like a massive tidal wave. Okay. Now, if COVID hadn't happened, I think the emergence of forever chemicals would be much more well known. But COVID kind of threw everybody in a tizzy. Okay. And really the crisis that we're facing in the Hudson Valley is twofold. Okay. Number one, there are a lot of industry and manufacturing facilities in this area that have historically massive amounts of PFAS being used on site, which used to not be illegal. Okay. It's only recent that it's been viewed as hazardous. Those chemicals are in the ground. Those chemicals got into the groundwater. This Hudson Valley, one of the reasons it's so beautiful is we have all these tributaries and ponds and streams that gets in the ground and it spreads everywhere and it never disappears. Okay. Number two, COVID hit this area very hard. Okay. Townships, school districts, water companies, they don't have money to deal with this right now. Okay. I know in Rockland and Nyack, they're doing all sorts of lead in water. And in Yonkers, they're doing also, we're working on it, trying to get rid of lead in water issue. The lead in water is a very well documented health concern. And the solution is clear. You have to change the pipes. The lead in the solder is what's getting in the water. There's a clearer solution. When it comes to getting rid of forever chemicals, PFAS in drinking water, there's no easy solution. Okay. The testing is expensive and the remediation is expensive because you need to put filtration systems. Now, I was on News 12 the other night, and one of the reporters asked me about what does it cost a homeowner to put a filtration system on their house? Let's say they have a well, and I was actually in a house in Purchase right outside of West Harrison that we tested. The PFAS levels were high, and they want to put in a filtration system. It's about $5,000 to put they had a plumbing company come in and put a filtration system in their house. It was called a charcoal filtration system in the basement. And that system then requires twice or three times annual maintenance to clean it out, to test it. So it's not exorbitant, okay? It's not $20,000, but it is a real cost for people. Think about if you own a rental building and you've got 4 tenants in a building and you're providing water to those people, you're obligated to make sure that that water is clean. So this regulations and science is evolving really fast. And it's hard. I was told by a friend of mine, my neighbor is Joe Rand at Rand Realty, and we were talking about it. And he says, the worst thing you can do, Michael, is scare people. Okay. I said, but this is scary, Joe. He says, so again, I want to make one caution to this, which is, it's not that anybody did anything wrong in these towns. Okay. This issue has come up fast. Okay. That municipalities and water companies are trying to really address this quickly. The EPA doesn't even have methods for testing this. The methods that we use to test for these chemicals there's only a approved method in drinking water. In groundwater and soil, we've had to come up with our own. The EPA is starting to do this now. But again, there's a graph here that I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'm going to leave it with you as part of the handouts to talk to you, show you where this is being used. Okay. So the exposure is what I want to point to here. So it's a workplace exposure. If you're a professional that's using the application of these chemicals, okay, if you're working in construction, you're a firefighter, you're working at a manufacturing facility, you're in garbage, you're in the water industry, you're getting exposed to this, you need to be cautious. And it's an environmental occurrence. It's in all the wastewater that we're using. It's going into streams. In landfills is a major area. Rockland County has 5 landfills. The leachate that goes into that is seeping into the ground. And then last, obviously, is the exposure you have from products. And again, McDonald's just said they're not using this anymore in their products. Okay, so health risks are huge. You know when I made the decision about investing in this and working with homeowners, again, as you all know, homeowners are a pain in the ass, right? So the health risks are huge. I'm a huge Mets fan. I actually have my Mets hat in the back. This was worn by Tug McGraw back in 1969. I'm a huge Mets fan. Okay, so I watch SNY all the time. Okay, if you watch cable television, you know how many lawyers take those ads out. Do you have mesothelioma? You need to call us at 1-800-GET-LAW. There's ads out right now. Do you live near an airport? Have you been exposed to firefighter foam? They don't talk about forever chemicals and they don't get into it, but it's happening. Okay, once the lawyers are starting to go after this, it's starting to have a groundswell. I've been asked to come into several PTA groups, okay, because it's a growing concern. But the health risks are huge. Okay, the cancer and the liver disease and asthma is off the charts. The data are very available. Watch the HBO special on John Oliver. I made it available on our website, our What's in Your H2O website, very easily, but you could just Google it. It's on YouTube. John Oliver, PFAS, forever chemicals. You know, again, how we're exposed. Oh, the other thing I'll mention to you, how we're exposed, I didn't mention this, it's in sunscreen. It's in cosmetics. Now, again, I don't wear a lot of blush and eyeliner and stuff, okay, but okay, my kids do. It's in all of this stuff, right? So yeah, it's everywhere. This is a great graphic to show you how it gets from the manufacturing plants and again the landfills. Okay, so you might say, well, I don't live near Westchester County Airport, but you live near a landfill, and the landfill seeps into the ground, it gets into the water, okay, and it's this big massive cycle. Remember, this doesn't disappear. This is forever chemicals, forever, right? So I got a question the other day from an investor who was asking me about, is this similar to asbestos? So you all know about what happened in, with asbestos testing. And I would say this is much worse, okay? It's similar in the fact that the documented health impacts of asbestos are real. My grandfather had one of his lungs taken out. He served on one of the Navy ships in Brooklyn during the last World War. Okay, and asbestos was the issue. Okay, I know what those are. When you remediate asbestos, you go in, you put on a hazmat suit, you cut all the stuff out, you bring it to a facility. It's not as easy with this. Okay, forever chemicals, the remediation process is really difficult. This is a massive. This is a real issue that is not going to go away, right? So let me see. Let me get to the next slide. Okay, And I'm going to get to pricing. I know someone asked me about that. So who should test their water? Okay, property owners that want to know the safety of their well water must get their water tested. Okay, and in some cases, they're going to start making this mandated. Now, obviously, now when you sell a home and you have a well, you have to. But people that have a well need to do this. I've been starting to work with veterinarian clinics that are recommending to people that give their pets water from the faucet, that they start testing the water because they're starting to see massive impacts on animals. Okay. If you're a business, a church, a school, an organization that has to have a drinking water permit, okay, the legal ramifications of having forever chemicals in your water and doing nothing about it are going to be significant. Anybody selling or transferring a property, people that live near the airports. Okay, my girlfriend lives near Westchester County Airport in Rye. She got 2 flyers in her mail back-to-back days from lawyers telling her, you should test your water. The lawyers will pay for the test because they're trying to collect data and put class action suits out there. Okay, and again, I mentioned the pet owners. Okay, so what are the limits? Let me give you some context about what are the limits. All right, so New York State DEC are the ones that set limits for what's considered dangerous. Okay, the New York State levels are much more stringent than the EPA. The EPA is still muddling through this. They're trying to figure out how to get their act together. So about 5 states in the US, California and New York, are at the leading edge of this. New York State has said 10 parts per trillion, yes, trillion, for drinking water. Anything over 10 parts per trillion is considered hazardous, and you're required to take action and remediate. The EPA has a limit right now of 70 parts per trillion, but the enforcement of that, it's not there. It's really left up to the states right now. So let me give you a reference. Okay, so you take a Olympic-sized pool. I just walked around Rockland Lake. For people that know Rockland Lake, I did the rock. So Rockland Lake has an Olympic-sized pool there. 4 droplets in an Olympic-sized pool is 10 parts per trillion. Okay, it doesn't take a lot of this chemical to make your levels hazardous, according to New York State. Okay, New York State has the same limits on groundwater. So when we work with construction companies, or we work with tank companies, or remediation, any environmental company, and they're testing groundwater at a site, okay, and they test for PFAS, if the PFAS levels in the groundwater, which is a well that drills down, whenever you guys go to a construction site, you see these tall like things that look like they're pounding down. Those are well drillers, and they're drilling wells for groundwater on properties so they could test to see what's in the water underneath the soil. Okay, the EPA doesn't have any guidance on this yet. New York State does. New York State has also set limits on soil. Okay, there's a lot of environmental regulations about the reuse of soil. So if you're working, again, we do a lot of work in Tarrytown. Tarrytown is digging. They dig up all the soil. They need to move it to another site. They used to be, they didn't care where the soil went. Now, those companies, Turner Construction, Yonkers Contracting Company, they all have to test what's in the soil in those trucks before they bring it somewhere. If there's 1 part per billion in that truck, it's considered hazardous. The EPA has no guidance on this yet. Okay, so these are really small levels of this chemical, considering the cost that has been added onto construction for this. Now, let me give you a comparison. The levels that we've been looking at for the last 5 decades of other regulated compounds, these are 1,000 times more stringent than common contaminants. One of the most common things we look for is volatile organics in water. Soil vapor gas that's coming up through a property is a big one that the banks make us look for. These are 1,000 times more stringent. So again, this is a game changer. And at some point soon, if you haven't run into it yet, you're going to have a property transaction that stalls, that stops because of an environmental issue. We have 5 ongoing sites right now in Westchester, 2 of them in Portchester, where property owner did some environmental due diligence. They did a phase 1. They took some samples and they found out that there was high levels of PFAS in the ground. The remediation on that property is now $5 million. The deal fell apart. That's why there are 2 very large construction sites sitting in the middle of Portchester and haven't moved. There's one in New Rochelle that we've been working on. The remediation cost of $3.5 million on the property. And it was for an old farm, and they're building 7 McMansions on the farm. And the farm used these chemicals as part of their pesticide, excuse me. So this is starting to happen on this larger scale. So I mentioned earlier, there are thousands of PFAS compounds. So how many of them are tracked? New York State tracks 21 right now. Only 21 of these 1,000 compounds are tracked right now by the state. PFOA and PFOS are 2 of the most common PFAS compounds. At some point, and there's regulations now, that list of 21 is going to turn to 41 and is going to be 800 at some point. This issue is only going to continue to grow. So I'm going to give you an insight into data. Okay, so you want proof as to what are the levels in our area. I get asked this question a lot. So we test monitoring wells, which are big holes in the ground with a plunger, and we test the water at the bottom of these wells all around. Let's say, can't tell you the name of the airport, but I can say it's a nearby airport. We have wells all over the property. We have wells in the community surrounding it. And when I say the surrounding community, talking about a 5-mile radius around the airport. The main source of the contamination is from de-icing and film forming foam used for firefighting, okay, that gets into the ground. Okay, we looked at all of the data we have, and again, we've done 10,000 samples in the last couple of years. 76% of the monitoring wells we tested in this 5-mile radius have PFOA or PFAS levels exceeding what New York State says they're dangerous. 76%. Okay. The most highly contaminated wells had levels 10,000 parts per trillion. Okay, talk about an issue. Now, everybody, the state's looking at the data. People are addressing the issue. There are systems being put into clean, but again, I mentioned the crisis that's facing our community. Nobody has any money for this. Okay, towns don't have, $5 million to put a filtration system to clean the water in Ramapo or Suffern or New Rochelle or Yonkers. They don't have that money right now. They're going to have to get it. Okay, so it's again, a brewing issue. Of the 24 species of PFAS we look for, okay, and only 2 are regulated, 60% of the wells had another 15 to 20 other species of PFAS. Okay, so talk about evidence that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, of the 24 species examined during the analysis, again, 15 to 20 other species were there. Now, when I look at the data that we have of greater New York City, and I'm doing 5 boroughs, Westchester, Rockland, and the Hudson Valley, okay, I took a sampling of the last 1,000 samples. That's a lot of samples. 52% showed PFOA exceeding 10 parts per trillion. 50%, while PFAS, which is the second compound, was 20%. So the concentrations outside of the area around the airport are much less, but still very high. When we look at the soil, I looked at 1,300 samples we've done in the last couple of months. 26% exceeded the New York State level. When I look at drinking water, I looked at 3,500 samples we did from public and private water. Again, this is public provided water. 16% of those samples exceeded the New York State guideline for hazardous. Now, only 2% exceeded the EPA guideline of 70 parts. But again, we're splitting hairs here. This is a problem. Okay. So hence where York comes in. Right. So we just got ourselves on the approved list. This is a document that's on the Rockland County list. There's one in Westchester as well. We are actually the only lab listed. There's 5 listed that have license to do all of this testing. So we're available to you. So we are the resource. If again, I want to know who your home inspectors are, so they could get in touch with us. Give our name out to people. Okay. If you get in touch with us through our website, which is at yorklabwatertest.com, sign up for our program. We have a program. We have a few hundred realtors that have signed up for this. Okay. We'll give you a discount code to share with your clients. They can work with us direct. We'll also give you educational information that you might want to share. I don't know, a lot of you might have little newsletters you send out to your clients. We also are giving out, we have a list of referrals of people that could address this. Okay. I've got maybe 40 different filtration companies in Connecticut and the Westchester, Rockland, Dutchess, Orange County area that we think do a good job of putting in filtration systems in homes. We have a list of remediation companies that if you've got a problem on your property, we're collecting a list of home inspectors. Again, we are a separation of church and state. We just do the tests. That's the only way to handle this. On my website, what we've tried to do is keep it simple for people. I like the idea of when you drive up to the car wash, you've got a couple of options. You have the regular wash, you got the wash with the underbelly, the wash with the tire thing. So that's kind of how we've looked at this. There's a standard water test that many people do right now. And one of the things you should know about our pricing and what we do, these are the prices that are out there now. We're basically the same cost as what you would be charged, but we do the test in-house. So you're getting your results back in 3 or 5 days. You're not waiting weeks sometimes on this. So if you've got a property transaction where you need a fast test done, call us, we'll get it done. I have an office right here in Nyack. I have 12 drivers, couriers that drive around this whole area, picking samples up and getting them back to the lab. My lab operates 24/7. So we have a silver water test. That silver water test that we offer is really the test that meets Westchester, Rockland, Orange, Putnam, Dutchess. Each county has a special list of requirements. So this one test includes all of those. We have a certain test that we've been doing, we've been asked for people that live near farms that are concerned about pesticides and herbicides. So we've added in some items that you might want to know. Again, Westchester County in Dutchess has a lot of farms. There is a list of pesticides that used to not be illegal that are now. And then of course, the forever chemical test on its own, we charge $400 as part of a package. It's a bit different. So when somebody asks me, what's the cost for a PFAS test? It's $400. Sampling process, we have simple instructions. If somebody orders a test, they could take it themselves. We give them the instructions on our website. There are gloves, okay? We'll mail it to you. We'll then come pick it up for you if you want. If you'd rather our technicians come to your house to take the sample, it's $150. Okay. If your customers, if your realtor, if your products, your sales want us to come take the sample, I'll do that for free. I have a code that I'll give you. Have my staff come out and take those samples, no charge. Again, I'm trying to figure out how we partner with realtors. Somebody said to me that they wanted to be a conduit of information between the buying and the selling, that medium, that inside period. This is an area where I think that realtors can become a real source of education and information. And we want to view you as part of a team with us. Okay. So contact us for next steps. I will need to know, who are the home inspectors you rely on? If you send me their names, I'll let them know that you gave them to us. Again, do you want turnkey information? Do you want discount information? You can email me, you can text me, you can sign up at our website. Let's see, stop sharing. So I just talked a heck of a lot. My voice is going a little bit. I usually don't sound like I just smoked a carton of Lark cigarettes, but Mary, can you hear me okay still?
Yes, we have a lot of questions in the
Okay.
chat. One of them was the cost, which you already went over. There's another one, which filtration system seems efficient to block PFAS?
So there are two that we're seeing in homeowners. Carbon filtration system is the system where most people are doing. It's the least upfront cost, but requires ongoing maintenance. Okay. A reverse osmosis system is really good for a home that has a real PFAS issue. So there are homes all around Westchester County Airport or the in Tarrytown around the old GM plant that are putting these reverse osmosis systems. A carbon filtration might be $4,000 or $5,000. Reverse osmosis, so we've seen them be about 8 or 10. Again, a big cost, but it's a one-time thing. And certainly for apartment buildings or rentals, they have to put these sorts of things in.
There's the next one. What can be done to combat all of this and protect yourself, family, and clients? And also, what are your thoughts on bottled water?
So people are using bottled water. It's expensive. It's not really a long-term solution. There's a company called Hydrate that we've just started to work with, and they are putting in these touchless systems in schools and buildings where it provides filtration of water. We're doing testing before the water goes in and after to make sure it's taking the PFAS out. So it's definitely a solution, but it depends on what what your situation is.
Someone else is asking, do you test in Orange County?
Yes, we do. Our lab covers all the way up through Albany, all of Long Island, all of New York City. We actually just did a job up in Niagara Falls, but yes, we deal with homeowners in Orange County. We actually have a service center up in Statsburg where people can pick up and drop off kits. One of the things we've been doing with some realtors, if they want it, is that we're able to drop off a couple of kits in your office. So if you have customers that want to come by and pick up a cooler and a kit, they can bring it home. That could be a drop-off location spot for us. Again, I don't have a lot of red tape. I own the company. Again, and we're a customer service business. So we're interested in working with people that maybe want to provide this service to their customers. If you're in an area where this is a growing issue, get out in front of it. Try to take a leadership role. We'll help you. Okay. I have turnkey educational material that you could email your email list. If you wanted to do a little seminar or something like that, we'd be happy to help you. Again, I live in Nyack. I live in this community. I'm interested from both sides of this.
Someone's asking, if a whole house filtration system is at the house, should the homeowner still worry about their well water?
So here's what I would do. If I have a home, and again, my parents have a well at their house. We're testing it twice a year, because if you have a well on your property, okay, the filtration system you had probably was done before PFAS and forever chemicals were an issue. So you want to check to make sure that it's working. We do a lot of tests like that. Actually, we do a test before the filtration and then after to prove that it's working. But with forever chemicals and with all of the streams, the groundwater, what's in the groundwater can change drastically. So again, the health inspectors, the health providers in the counties recommend, if you have a well, you test at least once a year. Again, so again, if you have one, you should be testing it.
I actually, you know what? I just had a question too, because
Yeah.
I have a well, I'm up in Cortland Manor.
Okay.
But I have on my refrigerator, it has a filter on my refrigerator for the drinking water
Okay.
that I use. So is that something, will that, take out all of the
Have you
bad
ever
things?
tested it?
Years ago.
Okay, so here's what, Mary, I'm gonna do a test at your house, okay? We're gonna do a test before your filter and after. We'll do that for you, and you share the data with people. Again,
Okay.
just so you know, a Brita filter, we did a test with Brita. Brita's not taking PFAS out, okay?
Oh,
So it might take some of so usually the basic filters, like a water softener, is taking the chlorine out. Chlorine's what smells. Might take some of the heavy metals out, but in other cases, you need like a charcoal filter. You need these other types of filters.
someone's asking about the standard test that you mentioned. Does that cover the PFAS, or they would have to have both?
No, there's the standard test, or what everybody has been doing right now. So that price that we give is generally what's been out there on the market. A test for PFAS is $400. And so when we add it together with the regular well test, we'll give some sort of discount on it. But again, testing for PFAS is expensive. Okay, the instrumentation that we needed to do this test is specialized. It cost me $1 million to buy one of these. Now that's come down, I have 3 of these instruments. We're the only lab that does this testing here. A lot of other laboratories, and there's lots of national chain laboratories, they take the sample and they send it to a facility around the country. They FedEx it out. So I know the largest PFAS laboratory is in out near Pittsburgh, and there's one in Minnesota, and they do a lot of this, but we're local. We do it right here, which is why we can get results so fast.
Empire Inspectors, who's actually also one of our HDR affiliate members, says that your company is one of the labs that they use.
Yeah, I see that. Again, we've been around a long time. People know us very well. The laboratory we just acquired is called Aqua Environmental up in Newtown, Connecticut, and they're very well known. They've been doing this a long time. They have a whole team that specializes in homeowners. What we've done is now we've taken what they do and we're expanding it, and we're bringing it to Rockland and Westchester.
Someone's asking about boiling water. Is it better to boil the water before drinking tap water?
So boiling water gets rid of bacteria, which is why when there's a lot of rain, they tell you to boil your water. But again, think about PFAS, forever chemicals. It does not, it's heat resistant. So if you have got PFAS in your water, boiling, it's not going to change that.
Does anyone else have any
other bacteria?
Okay, sorry. Does anyone else have any other questions for Michael? Really interesting presentation. I mean, some of the things that I think that none of us ever knew before.
I see on the questions here, been using Aqua for years. Awesome. Tom Braun and his whole staff are on my team now. We're taking what they do and we're doing more of it. And yes, we do radon. So we have a whole radon test. That's been part of the home inspector world. Again, home inspectors, they're going to start working with us more and more.
Okay. All right. Well, this is great. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning, and we will be converting this. Oh, we got another question. Is it true that we all have plastic fibers in our bloodstream? Ooh, that sounds scary.
I don't know about plastic fibers, and we're an environmental lab, but I do know that there are levels of PFAS in people quite a bit, and that's going to be the next testing wave. And people are going to start to, I don't know, travel around in bubbles, I guess. But
yikes.
Yeah, I hope this isn't the last time we talk to y'all. And please, let's get creative. I'd love to help get the word out.
Okay, we'll be recording this, and we should have this up on our YouTube channel, HDR YouTube channel, later on this afternoon or tomorrow. And if anyone has any questions, they can, ask me when I send it out, or you can respond directly to Michael at the website. But thank you so much. Really informative presentation.
Awesome.
All right,
see you
everyone.
soon.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.